Do you think when I mention them, we can show them real quick? You can just do a hi.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we'll start over.
I really don't plan anything. I was like, let's go at it. Ooh, we have a lot of doggies coming by. Should I start?
Yep.
Hi everyone. Today we have Isis on Searching for Goodness. As we continue our search for goodness, we keep finding good people. And we know each other a long time ago from CalArts. We're both alumni from CalArts film directing program, right? You were film directing too. And we also have 2 interns I want to shout out to. Thanks for coming for help from music department and from film department. They're graduating tomorrow. And we're happy to have them here. And we have Barry behind the camera. So yeah. So let's begin with your introduction. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing, the organization and everything. And in 2 days, it's Mother's Day, so you feel free to talk about being a mom as well if you like.
Absolutely. First off, I just want to say thank you for holding the space to have this really important exploration. And I'm happy to be here and sit in a tree with you. I love that this is what called to you, and now we're in a tree. So it's really a beautiful thing. It's the first interview I've done in a tree, so
Me too.
very special. So I am a channel and a shaman. I'm also a speaker, and I work with Iselu Leku, my husband. Iselu Leku and I, we hold the space for the divine channeling experience, and he curates breathwork exercises, soul healing exercises, heart opening exercises, and then I sit and channel wisdom from the other side of the veil through different collectives of energy and ancestors.
Very cool. Can you give us one example, like how this works?
Absolutely. So the collective of energy that I work with the most often right now is the Hopi brothers. And the Hopi brothers are my ancestors. They are also my actual brothers from a previous incarnation. And they work through me. There's a difference between being a channel and a medium. And a medium is someone who is able to hear or receive information from the other side of the veil, and then they'll communicate it. Whereas a channel is someone who actually surrenders their body to these higher vibrational beings, and then they utilize my body, they utilize my vocabulary. I can feel them going into like my brain like a Rolodex to pull out different pieces of information, and they'll use me to communicate whatever they want to say when they're working in a group or with an individual, and I get to be that humble vessel for them to support and serve people who are here in the human experience. So all that to say, it's really just a beautiful exploration. It's totally collaborative. My husband, he holds the space, he holds the protective energy as the divine masculine, and then I hold the protective space as the divine feminine, because as the divine feminine, we are intuitive. Women, we are gifted with that ability to tap in and to receive information and then express it. And so we are masters of the non-physical world, and then the divine masculine, they are masters of the physical world. And so their energy, their protection, and their alignment makes it possible for us to tap in and then just bring the information through.
Very cool. And
Yeah.
what inspired you to get on this path? Like, well, was there like a life-changing event, or what happened? How did
Yeah, girl, you know there was
I
going to
know,
be a
not
life-changing
everyone
event. There
knows.
had to be, right? Like for something like this, you know, you gotta be like, so wait a second, you just started channeling fifth dimensional higher guidance from the other side. And yeah, it was a beautiful development for me. I started on my shamanic path in 2018. I started just going and sitting with practitioners, practicing shamanic meditation, connecting with my ancestors. And I started hearing voices from the other side of the veil. But then I realized that these voices were those who had messages for loved ones. So I would be standing in a line at like Marshall's or something. Perfect example. There was a woman who was in front of me, and all of a sudden her husband came through, and he started talking to me and telling me to tell her I'm not mad at you for making me sleep on the couch the night before I crossed. I know you've got a job interview on Monday. You're going to do great. And he started just giving all this information, and it was incessant. And I just finally, I tapped her on the shoulder and I said, excuse me, I have a message for you. He says it's your husband, and this is what he'd like to say. And she completely broke down, just started crying these huge, big, like sobs. And they were like these sobs of relief, because it was like, finally she was able to get that information that he was more than okay. He was looking out for her, all of these pieces. And that's when I just started realizing that I could help, that I could support. And the thing about people crossing over into the non-physical is, you know, we falsely believe that when they've crossed over, they're no longer accessible. And that couldn't be further from the truth. They're actually more present for us in the non-physical than they're able to be in the physical. And so that was my path. I was doing that work. I was starting to channel an earth collective of spirits and starting to work and support people and have like a small roster of clientele, you know, people who were working with me from time to time. And it was just kind of, I would say, almost a hobby, really. It wasn't anything that I was actively pursuing. I was still writing screenplays. I was still producing, you know, creative works. But then right before my first husband crossed over, it was coming to the tail end of his cancer battle. And my children and I, we were walking in the woods, and we were in Michigan, and it was 20 degrees. We're all in snow pants. It's totally like snow everywhere. And then all of a sudden, the Hopi brothers started using my body to communicate to me and my two children about how to prepare ourselves for my first husband's crossing over. And I remember thinking, even in the human, I was like, oh my God, someone's going to walk down the trail and see me sitting here on the ground in my snow pants, sounding like, you know, I've got like all of these men using my body to talk. And I didn't even know what to expect. I was almost embarrassed. To be honest, I didn't know how it would be received, but all I knew was the information they were giving us was everything that we needed to walk the journey that was coming, because it was harrowing and it was horrifying. And to have someone cross over through a cancer battle, it is legitimately one of the most terrifying and terrible ways to die.
How old was he? He was pretty young.
He was
right?
49.
Yeah.
So he was young. Our children were young. And it was, honestly, I didn't think I could get up off the floor for a period of time. But the Hopi brothers would talk to me. They would connect with me. And the night that he died in the morning, and then he came to me that evening, my first husband, and he said everything that I needed to hear. He said, I wasn't there for you the way that you needed me to be. I'm here for you now more than I was ever able to be there for you in the physical. And your real love, your true love, he's on his way, and you got to get up off the floor, and everything's going to be okay. And you chose this so that you could learn, and all of this information. And he would come to me every night and talk to me and talk to me. And he would hold me. He would just give me information. And sometimes I would get really angry and I didn't even want to listen to what he had to say. But ultimately that non-physical, like that guidance from the non-physical, was the piece that helped me breathe, and it helped me get up in the rising, and it helped me stand up straight, and it helped me move forward for myself and for my children.
That's amazing. Okay, that's a good moment to take the hat off.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, what do you think goodness is, and through what you're doing, how do you think you can contribute to goodness? And dealing with all this stuff, how about the other side, the dark side of things? Have you ever encountered any experiences? How do you deal with that kind of stuff?
Well, let me think.
certain people in my life, if I were to lose them, I think I wouldn't be able to handle it, and I might like come to when that day comes.
Well,
I might come to myself because
you can't.
it's going to be very hard to.
You can't kill
manage.
yourself, because that's what I did
Yeah.
before. I actually, I wanted to kill myself because I had been in a cycle of suicide up until this lifetime. And if you kill yourself, then you basically have to set up an entirely new set of circumstances that are just as challenging, if not more so.
So it's almost like if you don't finish the game, you're going to come back and have to play all over again.
And it'll be even harder.
That's a good reason not to do it. That's a good reason.
It's a really
to just.
So this is my dragon. Here's my dragon. So I started sitting with plant medicine in 2021. And it was to navigate essentially what I was walking through at the time. I felt that sitting in ayahuasca ceremonies would help me to support my first husband, who at that time was, in the midst of battling his stage 4 cancer diagnosis. And we actually went to the Amazon jungle in order to seek medicinal support from this powerful shaman who's been practicing plant medicine and serving since he was almost a child. So he had almost 60 years of experience supporting people in their healing journey. So that's why I went there, really was to support my husband. And then I realized that I was actually needing to address so much of my own childhood trauma that needed to be alchemized, that needed to be expelled, that needed to be expunged and, addressed. And in my third ceremony, I was experiencing the aspect of dragon energy. And the dragon, it's been often misconstrued as being destructive force or being, in some way insidious. But the dragon is actually one of the most powerful entities in the universe. And it is a guardian. The dragon is power. The dragon is reparation. The dragon is love and divine protection. So knowing what I was walking through at the time and seeing myself reflected in the dragon in my ayahuasca ceremony, I was like, I gotta get a dragon on my arm. I needed to be reminded of who I was and what was being called forth for me to really embody as I protected my husband, protected my children, and protected my own consciousness around what we were facing at that time, which was, navigating a medical system and me supporting a Black man who was ill and wasn't getting the kind of medical treatment that he deserves as a human being and a child of God. I had to be up in people's faces. I needed to roar. I needed to breathe fire. And that was the way that I protected him before he crossed over, advocating for him, showing up for him. And I know it's because of that ayahuasca ceremony that I was able to connect with my inner dragon and really stand as the guardian of him throughout the whole cancer process.
That explains it very, very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had times I felt like a dragon myself. I get what you're saying with different situations and different purposes, but I know that feel. But I've burnt myself a lot when I was in that phase. I'm glad that didn't happen to you. I burned myself on my own
get
fire.
burned. You burn, and then you also have an understanding and a compassion for the places that you needed to be the fire, knowing that the fire is purification. The fire is any challenge in your life that really jacks you up. Let's be honest here. We can be real. Anything that you're walking through, what supported me was the knowing that every single challenge that we walk through is expressly designed by our soul in the non-physical before we come here, because your soul, your higher self, requires you to walk through challenges in order to evolve, in order to expand, and in order to balance karma. So every challenge is a gift. Every challenge is a gift. And if you know Ma'at, the 11 laws of God, you focus on the law of Asar, which states that your peace Your nature is an unconquerable peace. Therefore, nothing or no one in the world can be against you. All experiences come to you to promote your reclamation of peace, that you may, in turn, acquire wisdom and spiritual power. So every challenge is an opportunity to acquire wisdom and spiritual power. And that is what I held on to so that I could get up, stand up, and really reclaim my own life force energy so I could move forward on the other side of tragedy.
Beautiful.
Thank you,
Beautifully
sis.
said.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the
Let's go
goodness
back
question.
to, yes,
Searching for goodness.
searching for goodness.
So I guess this is the way you found as an instrument in your search for goodness on finding some answers, and how do you spread goodness. And I also want to start to explore the other side of things.
Mm-hmm. So when I think about the idea of searching for goodness, what that represents for me is the idea that goodness is already here. It's already present. We are divine children of God, each of us. And therefore, we, as the creation, cannot be divided from our Creator. And the Creator is Great Spirit. The Creator is Source. The Creator is God. The Creator is our heavenly parentage. We are inherently good, but our trauma divides us from that knowing. Our trauma isolates us from the truth that we are good. So when you see someone walking through the world who's stealing, who's lying, who's manipulating, who's hurting people, that's because they've forgotten that they are a divine child of God. They've forgotten their divine parentage because the trauma locks the brain into misinterpretations. It locks the brain into thoughts that are not true, information that is, it's not even real. But you in your mind will think, okay, I'm not safe because of my trauma. They're trying to hurt me because of my trauma. All of these things, those are low vibrational thoughts. They aren't true. We are all good. We are all divine. And it's our responsibility to show up and say, wait a second, okay, that's my trauma. I'm reacting this way and I need to fix it. Not just for everyone around me. I need to fix it for me so that I can have peace, so that I can be an instrument for God. Again, if you think about, Ma'at, the 11 laws of God, which have been absolutely foundational for me in my own spiritual practice, the law of Ma'at, the second half states, become the love of God in the world for the protection of the world. That's who we are. We've just forgotten. And the trauma's convinced us otherwise. And it's not even real. So what is real is our goodness. What is real is God. What is real is the fact that we are all angelic, divine, powerful, beautiful souls. And then we got to come here, we got to balance some stuff, and we got to fix some stuff, and we have to remember. And that's the process, I think, for each of us to find our own goodness within ourselves.
Very good. That's a great answer.
Yeah. Thank you.
You just touched on angels. Two things we talk about during our episodes. What do you think of angels? Do you have some connection through this thing with angels? And they say angels are the messengers of God, and they don't have free will, like they do whatever God tells them to do. And the other thing we know, Lucifer, who was the other,
Right.
The fallen angel.
The fallen angel.
And then I want to ask your opinion about angels. And the other thing, if you want to connect to the birds, like randomly we ask people about birds, and I always get interesting questions, and I keep hearing the birds in the background. So
There's so many birds. Well, first, I've worked with some angels, actually. I've channeled angels. I've heard from Metatron, who is a beautiful, powerful angel. Metatron has spoken to me and given me some information and communications. One of the things that's really interesting is that angels, they work consistently and constantly on the earth plane. They're always here. There's always something to do. There are legions of angels that are working, that are guiding, that are supporting. And one of the things that I think is so important to remember is that everything that we are seeing You know, the universe is vibrational. So we're only seeing things right now here based on frequency. So there are higher frequencies everywhere. There are frequencies layered upon each other. So there's an entirely new world layered right on top of this plane of existence right now, this experience. And you can't always perceive them. You can't always perceive that there's an angel standing there because they're vibrating at a higher frequency.
Right. Yeah, we can only perceive three-dimensional, but that doesn't mean there's only three dimensions.
Exactly. There's all kinds of dimensions.
Right.
And so the work for us and the journey for us is to purge those lower frequencies, and that can come through plant medicine, through meditation, through all kinds of different experiences. It really depends on the soul and what the soul wants for their own curriculum and how they want to get there. For me, it was plant medicine. That's been my journey, and I'm still working on different traumas that come up and learning how to just be at peace with them and say, okay, I'll get some divine wisdom from this today, you know, and just being light about it and, you know, moving through it. The knowing that we have infinite support at all times is really, I think it's imperative for us, because otherwise people feel into despair, they feel into devastation, they feel into the low frequencies of victimization, which are absolutely not true. Right. Absolutely not true. Everything that happens to you happens through you and for you, and you agreed to it all. And some might argue, well, how can you say that? There are horrible things happening in the world, and I would never choose to be assaulted by someone. I would never choose this and this and this. And I would counter that and say, absolutely you did. Because that's the soul's agreement. And the soul wants to learn things. And I can look at my own experiences and say, well, Isis, you chose to be sexually assaulted when you were an infant? Really? Absolutely. Absolutely. It was imperative for me. There were pieces I needed to learn as a teacher, as a healer, as a shaman, and I was not going to be able to teach and heal and serve in the way that I do if I did not have those, my own experiences of not being safe from a very early age. So to work through those pieces and just to know that you have divine support, it's just a powerful journey for all of us. And I love being able to serve in that way, to support others who are in the midst of that journey.
I think that's one of the key points of goodness, is supporting others through difficulties. Well, about the birds, do you have anything else special to say?
Birds, yeah.
Do you have anything?
Well, and I wanted to touch on what you said just now, and then the birds, obviously, don't want to be heard. But what you were saying, you know, about wanting to help others, you know, I'm doing this work now, the divine channeling experience, which we can drop into a little bit more in more detail later. The work that I'm doing now as a channel and a shaman, it is in service. And the work that I did as a public speaker for over 20 years, you know, traveling to different
I'm so sorry.
high
I'm not
schools.
used to sitting on a tree.
Yeah, girl, you in the tree. You gotta get yourself right. The work that I did traveling to different high schools and colleges and communities all over the country, you know, some would call them at risk. I call them underserved. I heard that term and I think it's more accurate. So working in underserved communities and then walking through fire and saying, hey, guess what? I walked through it and I know you're in it, and this is what helped me to get out of it. I think that that's a really beautiful way for us to help others. We can't solve everybody's problems and we can't fix anything for anyone. It has to be someone of their own volition seeking the knowledge and then being brave enough to really look at it and say, okay, hold on, I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to have a higher, a more expanded idea of what this really means for me and how it serves me. And I think it's just a beautiful place to teach from. The birds. I'm actually just kind of tapping in for a minute, and
I realize I really would go a tree house right now.
yeah.
So nice.
So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna ask, what's special about birds? Why do we have birds? So I'm not gonna channel necessarily, but let's just see what is communicated.
And they're freely flying and singing all day. I admire that. I think I admire their freedom.
So, okay, so what I'm receiving is that birds are an integral aspect of the structure of Tierra Madre, of Mother Earth. And they are integral to the structure, they are integral to the ecosystems, they are obviously a part of this ever-moving, ever in motion. They're almost always in motion, actually, which is interesting. They do represent that. They're very, very cyclical beings energetically, but in a spiritual aspect, their service is to remind us of the lightness and the joy. It's almost as though you can't sit there and listen to a bird singing or chirping and and still be in a funk, so to speak. I'm receiving information and frequency, and I'm trying to translate it and speak about what is, because sometimes I'm shown pictures or I'm shown, just like frequencies or music and things like that. So I'm translating it as we go. It's almost like birds also heal in their frequency, in their song. So it is a higher frequency, and so it can actually heal. They're saying that there are actual scientific studies that show people who are ill or in hospice or in some kind of medical care they actually show a greater scale of improvement when they're able to hear the sounds and songs of birds.
That's
so that would be interesting to check up on. So that's a piece that they're communicating. And
how do you think spirituality and science can complement each other? How they can complete each other? Because someone very scientific can diss everything you're saying right now, which might have happened to you. So what do you think? How do you explain this to a person of science?
Well, there's a saying, and there's an actual a book, and I forget the author of the book, but I give him massive appreciation for his work, wherein he basically shares that science is unseen spirituality. Spirituality is unseen science. That may not be the direct thought or the direct quote, but it was that aspect that he was communicating, that they're inextricably linked. They are essentially the same modality, but they're just looked at from a different viewpoint. So we're already seeing now that people are experiencing all kinds of different healing situations and rising in consciousness and somehow doing better with brainwave activity or physical healing processes when they're exposed to sound baths or sound meditation or those healing aspects of sound. So that would be a very prime example of how you could say in the spiritual way there's a blending of what we know in practice. Think about you think about that is the set point, that is the 0 point, that's the point in which everything is created, wherein the world is created, the soul is created, all comes from just the simple Om. And at the same time, you could go ahead and analyze from a very scientific point of view when you have monks chanting or people who are in practice or in a spiritual a spiritual meditative state and they're chanting, that will actually help create higher frequencies in the brain and the body and, you know, serve as a healing modality. So they're very much linked and they're very much the same thing. It's just almost like looking at it from a completely different point of view.
That's another beautiful answer. Thank you. And how do you feel about our documentary also has an environmental aspect to it. We're you know, talking about climate change, global warming, how it affects the work. That's a little outside the spiritual realm, but what are your thoughts on that? Like, how would you do to protect our world? Because I mean, I don't know if people still denying the global warming and climate change out there, but it's pretty evident something's happening.
I think that in order for us to protect the world, we need to begin within and harness our own inner strength and power. First off, by looking at the world that we live in and just being real, like this is not real. This is simply, and some might argue otherwise, but I maintain that we are in the midst of a simulation. We are in a simulation. We are in a quote unquote video game, for lack of a better example, but that's really what it is. We are creating everything with our mind and then with our feelings and then with our actions. Mind, feeling, action. So everything that we want and everything that we wish to create, it first has to be in the mind. Then we take action based upon the thoughts that we have. So it's a little out of left field, so I'm going to try to break it down. So for us to serve the world, to heal the world, we have to know that we are choosing to do so first with our mind and envisioning it. Whatever we want to create for the world, or however we want to serve the world, we have to know that the idea that we're powerless, that's absolutely not true. So you get that, get that set, right? I can do anything. I'm divinely powerful. I'm a divine vessel of God, et cetera, et cetera. You get that in the mind. Then you feel into the feeling. Okay, so whatever I'm creating, however I'm healing, I can feel it. It feels incredible. This is how I'm serving. And then you take the action. And then you get to be actually physically serving the world with your actions. And I think that's how we actually help, is by knowing that our minds govern our feelings, which govern our actions. And so we have to get our minds straight. We have to realize that we're so much more powerful than the Matrix would have you believe, than commercials or television would have you believe, than your parents who were broken in their own traumatized experiences would have you believe. It's all about the mind first. So whatever you want to do to heal the world, see it in your mind and heal yourself to know that you are a divine emissary of God. You are God walking upon the earth plane as God's creation. The creation cannot be divided from the creator, remember? So if you cannot be divided from your creator, then you are, in fact, aspects of the creator making the world what it can be with your higher consciousness.
Yeah, it's an illusion, the whole division that we're all one. And that's why all the wars and all the violence doesn't make any sense, because and that everything's like separate from each other is also an illusion. The butterfly effect, something happening here affects the other. And everybody harming one another is actually harming themselves, because when you think we're all one, including the world.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but you were speaking some truth right there. If everyone just realized some very critical points, some say you can't know what's happening on the other side. I say follow the individuals
who have actually sweet blood.
I know. This like little friend wants to be up in my hair like the Mother Earth really wants to be with me today, just all up in my face. Okay, so I will say this. For those who say we can't know what happens after we cross over, we don't know. Have you ever talked to someone who's had a near-death experience? Have you studied near-death experiences? Have you communicated with those who have actually crossed over, been on the other side, had an experience, and then come back? Author Daniel Brinkley, he wrote Saved by the Light, and he died twice. And the first time he crossed over, he described what is known as the life review. So every single one of us experiences on the other side a life review. And in that life review, you will actually relive your life, and then you will experience it from the opposite side. So let's say you go ahead and you cut someone off in traffic, right? And they get super upset and you did it. You knew what you were doing. Like, you shouldn't have been cutting them off, but you did it, right? And you had your little malintent, and you had your own trauma, and you were like, I'm just gonna cut them off, right? So that action, that person who somehow is affected by you, they're gonna maybe take that home, and they might, snap at their child, or, be a little bit cantankerous with their wife or something, right? So you've affected them, and then they've affected their people that are in their sphere, and you will experience it all on the other side. In your life review, you go through your entire life and you experience the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between from the other side. So multiple hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have had near-death experiences have corroborated this very aspect of what happens after you cross over out of this plane of existence into the non-physical. And the very first night that my husband crossed over, he shared with me that he had already had his life review, because all time exists at the same time. It's all happening. It's all happening right now. There's no division in time. So that night, he had already lived through his entire lifetime and experienced everything. And he experienced all of the joy that he caused other people to feel, and he already experienced all the sorrow or grief or rage that he caused other people to feel. And that's part of how we learn as souls. And then after you have your life review, there's so many other different processes in the non-physical, but ultimately, before you choose to come back again and learn some more, you've got to look at who you were and how you impacted people and how you affected other souls. And then you've got to figure out, how am I going to balance that? How am I going to balance that karma? Or how am I going to do better? Or what can I do in my next lifetime that will really ascend my soul moving forward? So I think if everybody knew that there was a life review, I think we'd have...
I mean, I had a near-death experience.
Wow.
Then, 2 times. One of them I remember more.
Twice?
I was almost getting drowned in the water. Wow. Yeah, I, like I see in the movies, I took a girl with me to go swimming. I didn't know she didn't know how to swim. And she was about to drown, so I jumped in the water to save her, and she started drowning me. And we were both dying if somebody else didn't jump in and saved us both. But I had a moment, like, I saw the light and my life passing by, because I only had like 10, 11 years of life, so it wasn't a long movie. But I remember what they're talking about. I really saw the light flashing and the light and everything they talk about. It's real. And when I was looking into science and spirituality comparison in my research, doctors talk about miracles. Like, there's some things happen really can't be explained scientifically. So there's definitely something more than meets the eye. I do believe that. And what they call science and magic, in some ways, are very similar, using herbs, using, the same kind of stuff. One of them makes medicine, and the other was what they called magic. And there's like some correlation, I think, in nature and science and spirituality. Everything's connected. That's another illusion of division, I think. The more people learn to coexist things, the more puzzle pieces are going to come together, I feel like. And on an irrelevant note, which nothing's irrelevant per what we talked about, so I've been dreaming to travel the world and explore like the oneness concept overall. That was the thing. The whole project started with the name of searching for God, and then I changed it up. Goodness, I think, covers more under one umbrella, because then spiritual division started to come in place. So I wanted to go to Antarctica to interview a lot of scientists over there, and possibly bring like a spiritual retreat there too. That's my goal when I get to the future film. Any thoughts about Antarctica? I know you haven't been there before, but what do you think? What's your general thoughts, or what's coming to you about that?
Oh, Antarctica is a mystical, magical, powerful vortex That's why it is protected. That's why nobody, I would say, they don't want us to go there. Because there are bases there. There are bases for extraterrestrial activity.
I heard about that.
There are beautiful hotbeds of fifth dimensional interaction, and it's supposed to be kept a very secret space, and nobody wants anybody to be there precisely because of those reasons. There is a base in Antarctica, and there are fifth dimensional beings and races who visit there frequently. And it is a hotbed of, I would say extraterrestrial activity. There's obviously energetically in the poles. It's incredibly important, and it's incredibly vital to keep that space, I think, pristine. I think that's part of the reason that it is so frigid, because you have to be a certain type of human somehow in your consciousness to get there and to maintain your focus in a space like that. But it is an incredible, incredible space.
Everything you say, I agree. And Lovecraft had a book in the Mountain of Madness, something like that. He talks about they go for an adventure about aliens and everything. And I heard that story. So that's one aspect to it. But there is also a lot of scientific research happening there. There's 70 different countries. That was why I was interested. I'm like, oh, okay, I can go to that one continent, be able to like interview a bunch of people from different countries in one place about what they're doing, what they're working on. And like you said, this needs to stay very pristine. They're very protective of it. But while I was researching other interesting facts I found, Werner Herzog made a movie about there. It's called, what was it? Something at the End of the World. I can't remember the name of the movie. It'll come to me later. But a lot of people he interviewed talk about being a spiritual experience too. They talk about that. And they always say utopia can't be real. Utopia is but in a way it's a utopia. In a way it's like heaven, because people from all over the world live in coexistence, no wars, crime rate is as low as it could be. So I find that very interesting to go explore. Like, would you be interested maybe do a spiritual retreat if the day comes we go there?
Oh, absolutely, girl. Just like tell me to pack my snow pants again. I'll get my snow pants on and, head out there. I've done winters in Michigan. I don't think they're the same as Antarctica, but they're definitely a way to prime yourself. And that's actually my intention. My partner and I, our intention as Issei and Isis. His name is Issei Luleku, and he also goes by Issei. And so for us, like our work, holding space for the divine channeling experience, we want to channel and we want to travel all over the world, especially to high vibrational places, because, there are certain aspects of, energy grids and meridians, et cetera, where you're able to tap into different energies. And we want to bring people, we want to take our experience, we want to continue that work, and we want to hold space for those who are ready to heal themselves. That's our focus. That's our mission, is to take this information and to take this guidance and to take this support and create a global, galactic impact with what we do. And if that means going to Antarctica, if that means going to places like Egypt or the Amazon jungle or other just very high vibrational places, then we're 100% ready. We're ready. We're ready to do it. And it's such a blessing to be able to be walking beside my partner in this journey, because we have that same commitment to serving. So can I ask you, in a situation like this, you said life is full of obstacles and this is something I really want to do. I couldn't figure out how to get the funding yet. Still trying to find my way to figure it out, to be able to go there with a good crew, good equipment, and, with the right kind of clothing and everything. So do you think you can seek guidance and get guidance spiritually in that sense, to help you to go that direction? Oh, For us, and you mean as far as my work with Issei, with
Yeah.
the divine channeling experience, how did I seek guidance, or?
Yeah, how do you seek guidance when you feel lost to get to where you need to go?
Okay, that's a beautiful question. The truth of the matter is we've been receiving guidance through the channels. The Hopi brothers actually came through and told us in no uncertain terms. They said, you have an agreement. They're like, you're our little sister. Speaking to me, Isis, they're like, you're our little sister. This is our agreement. You're going to serve. You're going to help. You're going to provide a space and a container. Issei is the divine masculine. He's already been a teacher. He's already been holding the space to teach men how to walk a path of righteousness, of morality, to be, bigger than their trauma, to be healthier than their wounds. And he said, this is, they told us this is your path together to serve in this way. So the funny thing is, when you're able to just relax and trust and know that your path is already defined, you start taking action as though all needs are met. Another channel, his name is Bashar. He's channeled by Daryl Anka. And Bashar defines abundance as having everything you need at the moment that you need it. So Issei and I, we didn't necessarily go out saying this is what we're going to do, but we started receiving the guidance. We were able to be at peace, and then all of a sudden we had opportunities to speak. All of a sudden people were coming to us. All of a sudden people were like, here's a space for you to use. This is our partnering. This is what we want to do. This is how we can move forward. This is how we can support you. Because we just relaxed in the knowing that we had everything we needed in order to serve at the level we wanted to serve. So as far as that translating to your experience and to your passion or to anyone's passion, I would say that the most important thing that you can do is to trust in the knowing that all your needs are met. And that's the thing you got to fix in your brain. All your needs are met. All of them. All of them. That's it. And if you take action and you feel into the relief and the peace, all needs are met, and then you take action knowing that, then everything just falls into place for you, inexplicably and in total and complete perfection.
Together, with this divine guidance for both men and women, we harmonize our way back home, united in our co-creativity and forged for eternity in our divinity. It begins with you.
And any last thoughts where let's conclude our conversation today? If you want to sum it up, everything you just told us, and any last thoughts you want to tell our audience?
I just wanted to say thank you for this exploration again, because, this is so important. And, we are one, we are God, we are divine children, we're all connected, we're all learning from each other. And I think that the knowing that we are goodness itself, we are divine emanations of God's love. And when we are able to know that we're brave enough to live this life, because the human experience is not easy, y'all. Like, let's be honest here. It ain't easy. It is the lowest vibrational dimension in all of the universe. And to be human means that you have come here to learn something, you've come here to balance something, you've come here to expand, you've come here to attain spiritual wisdom and power, and it's not easy to get it. So just, I think in closing, I would say remember and know that each of us is so extraordinarily brave to be able to come here, be human, and walk through all of the traumas, and now you get to look at them and heal them. And that's the journey, and that's the beauty of being human here.
Can we heal with love?
Absolutely, but you have to love yourself and give yourself compassion for the places that you are in your trauma and you hurt other people. You can't love other people until you learn how to love yourself. And sometimes it takes that deep dive into the shadow work to say, okay, wait a second, that's where that came from. I'm going to have compassion for that hurt little girl. I'm going to have compassion for that hurt little boy. I'm going to hold space. I'm going to hold them higher. I'm going to hold them to a higher standard. And I'm going to continue to heal them and give them everything that they need to be their best self. And then in that way, you're able to recognize and remember your inherent goodness as a divine child of God.
Beautiful words.
And girl, if it doesn't work, just get in a tree.
And any our audience who want to see your work and follow you, or maybe they're interested in your organization.
Please.
Tell us a little bit about your organization and how can they reach you.
So the Divine Channeling Experience, we can be found at my website, isisinspires.com, and you're able to find and curate and create your own events. If you want to attend an event, you'll be able to get onto our newsletter. So if you sign up to our newsletter, you'll be able to be made aware of the different events and the different audiences that we travel to. And you can also hold the space for a private group. You can also hold the space for a private training in your own corporation or your own organization. We do private trainings, we do private groups, and we also do large audiences. So Isis Inspires is where you'll find that information. And then you can also find me on my socials at Isis Inspires on Instagram and TikTok. And then also Isis Speaks Out is more of my public speaking and the work that I do a little bit more hands-on in the community with kids and different organizations, more as a speaker. But all of the channeling, all of that, Isis Inspires, that's my work. And you'll find me and Iseluleku, my husband, holding space and helping out best we can.
Wonderful. And we are filming this a few days before Mother's Day, and you seem to be a wonderful mother. Any words for mothers and for the future of our children?
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful query. I would say that the most important piece of motherhood is knowing that you are the one. At this current state in time on the earth plane, we are having more chain breakers enter the human experience than any other time. So it is incumbent upon you as the mother to break those chains of generational curses, where your mother didn't have her needs met, yelled at you, punished you, might have been emotionally abusive, physically abusive, or worse. Those are the spaces for you as a mother to say, I'm not going to continue that. I'm going to find self-care. I'm going to create a dynamic in my home. I'm going to heal myself so that I can work with a partner who is able to provide that divine masculine energy as my equal partner in this home, because the divine feminine requires the divine masculine to be truly at peace, to truly know herself as a divine mother and be able to hold that space of healing for her children and herself. So the mother, right now, we are breaking so many chains and we're creating so many beautiful, much higher spaces of consciousness in the divine family. So that would be my piece to offer to the mothers.
Beautiful.
You're beautiful.
Everything you say is beautiful. You're beautiful. Girls, do you have anything to ask before we wrap it up? Any questions popped up on your heads?
That was great. I loved it.
You good? You got anything, Barry?
I'm good.
We're good? Okay.
Feeling the vibe.
Barry's like, I got my battery going. That's all I need. Do I have enough battery to bring it to a close?
All right, this last one, close up and
Okay. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank you.
I believe this is definitely, I want this to be in the
Thank
movie.
you,
This is
sister.
going to be in the movie. And I thank you for following us and watching us. You let us know if you have any other questions. We can let you know in writing under our little video. And follow us, subscribe us, share us, all that. And let's say it one more time together. Goodness will win, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Goodness will win.